Compiègne, France, 22nd of June 1940. Hitler met representatives of the French government and military to accept the nation's surrender. The Battle of France was over. All hostilities between Germany and France would end 3 days later on the 25th of June. Hitler insisted that the surrender ceremony be held in the same railway carriage where, in 1918, Germany had surrendered to the Allies, ending World War I. Afterwards, on Hitler's order, the Pullman car was displayed in a museum in Berlin, but it was destroyed later in the war in a British air raid. A reconstruction is now on display at Compiègne. Paris had fallen to the Germans on the 14th of June. Declared an open city, it was untouched by the fighting and was swiftly occupied, the German army parading down the Champs-Élysées past the Arc de Triomphe. Hitler, the frustrated artist and architect, wanted to visit Paris. A huge victory parade had been planned, but it was abandoned after advice from the German military, who feared it would be a prime target for British bombers. Instead, Hitler decided to stage a literal flying visit to Paris. Armed with a list of tourist destinations that he wanted to see, it would be his first time in the City of Light, and he came not only as a sightseer, but as the conqueror of Western Europe. Only the British Empire still fought on against him. At the time of the French capitulation, Hitler was at his forward headquarters, in France codenamed Wolfschlucht or Wolf's Gorge, where he had been directing the battle since the 6th of June 1940. 2 days after accepting the French surrender, Hitler made his trip to Paris. It was an almost furtive affair rather than a triumphal entry. Hitler's party flew in 2 special Focke-Wulf FW-200 Condors to Le Bourget Airport in Paris, touching down at 5:30 in the morning. For the trip, Hitler had asked his personal architect Albert Speer to accompany him, along with the sculptor Arno Breker and architect Hermann Giesler. The rest of his entourage consisted of his usual aides and staff, including his pilot, Hans Bauer, secretary, Martin Bormann, adjutant, Schaub, and General Wilhelm Keitel of the High Command. Hitler's party also included his personal protection officers from the Reichssicherheitsdienst or RSD, and a small detachment of Führerbegleitkommando bodyguards or FBK. Hitler being routinely guarded by several different SS and army agencies with sometimes overlapping responsibilities. The 3 civilians, Speer, Breker, and Giesler, were kitted out in field grey officers' uniforms so as not to stand out in the party. Preparations in Paris for the Führer's visit were minimal. Streets were not cordoned off or guarded. Hitler's party, in 5 large Mercedes field cars, drove straight into the city through largely deserted streets. The cars were all open-topped, and Hitler sat in the front passenger seat of one of the cars, with Speer and Breker on jump seats behind, and Giesler and some adjutants in the rear. First stop on the tour was Hitler's favorite, the Paris Opera House. He knew the building from studying its blueprints, but was awestruck by its beauty. Met on the steps by Colonel Hans Speidel of the occupation forces, who ironically in later years was a member of the anti-Hitler resistance amongst army circles. A French caretaker accompanied the group through the deserted building, unlocking doors. Hitler's evident knowledge of the building impressed his entourage. As Albert Speer wrote in his book in 1970, near the proscenium box, Hitler found a salon missing, remarked on it, and turned out to be right. The French attendant said that this room had been eliminated in the course of renovations many years ago. "There, you see how well I know my way about," Hitler commented complacently. He seemed fascinated by the opera, went into ecstasies about its beauty, his eyes glittering with an excitement that struck me as uncanny. The attendant, of course, had immediately recognized the person he was guiding through the building. In a businesslike but distinctly aloof manner, he showed us through the rooms. When we were at last ready to leave the building, Hitler whispered something to his adjutant, who took a 50-mark note from his wallet and went over to the attendant, standing some distance away. Pleasantly but firmly, the man refused to take the money. Hitler tried a second time, sending Breker over to him, but the man persisted in his refusal. He had only been doing his duty, he told Breker. After leaving the opera, Hitler's convoy drove to La Madeleine, where Hitler got out and viewed the church. The convoy now moved on to the Trocadero. Hitler got out to view the Eiffel Tower from a distance. He couldn't climb the tower because the French authorities had severed the lift cables shortly before the Germans had taken over Paris, and the Eiffel Tower remained out of commission until 1946. After many photos, the party drove on to pass the Arc de Triomphe, with the tomb of the unknown warrior beneath the archway, and stopped again at Les Invalides, home of Emperor Napoleon I's tomb. Hitler admired Napoleon, and there was much symbolism in his visit to this place. Hitler stood for a long time gazing down at Napoleon's burial place. Next stop was the Pantheon, and Hitler was greatly impressed by its proportions. The last stop on the tour was Montmartre and the giant white cathedral atop the hill, the Sacré-Cœur. People going to church recognized Hitler but ignored him. By 9 a.m. Hitler's party was back at the airport preparing to depart. Hitler was ecstatic. He turned to Speer and